Hey guys, Tim here, Big Dog Forge. Welcome back. Doing a collaboration with Danial Moss in the UK, and I'd sent him a couple of billets of Damascus. He turned one of them into a hammer, and it had cracked on him. So I decided I was going to put another billet together to get over to him to replace that one, and we're going to do something a little bit different. So I thought I'd take you along for the ride on that, and hope you enjoy this one, guys. Alrighty, here we go. Stick with me. Should be fun. Okay, guys, we're going to keep this one as short as we possibly can. We're cutting out our 15 and 20 from a sawmill blade blank. It's the last one that we have left from Corey. So we need to get his knife finished up and trade him so we can get some more. Alright, and we're just knocking off the slag from the plasma cutter with a hammer. It's a little easier. It chew up a belt if you try to grind that stuff off. And we're going to clean up the surfaces, the rust and all that off of them. Now this is 1075 and it's bar stock. It's an inch and a half wide, 1/8 inch thick. There we go. And the 15 and 20 we've got is about 1/16 inch thick. So we're going to double up those 15 and 20s between each one of these 1075s. So we can come up with a sort of an equal pattern. And we should be just about 1.5 inches wide by about 1.75 inches thick. And this billet's going to be just about 10.5 inches long. It's as long as the bandsaw blade was wide. And of course we had to cut the 1075 off a little bit, but that works. There we go. We get her all clamped up and welded up, get a handle on this thing. And you're going to notice that on that first weld I pulled the gun across, and on these welds I'm pushing it across, which is actually the proper method. You're supposed to feed the wire into the puddle it's leading away. I see a lot of folks dragging it away from the puddle, which will leave you with a little bit of a shallow weld and some inclusions. So, alright, we got a handle on that thing. And we get some flux on this guy and get our first weld on it. It was scrappy. And of course I'm a little out of practice here, so there's a couple of steps I left out simply because I forgot to turn the camera back on. So those welds that we put on this one, the last time we sent a billet over to Daniel, it had some weld inclusions in it. So like I said, I'm not turning the camera on and I didn't put it in here, but I went ahead and ground those welds out after we got our initial weld on this thing, our initial forge weld. I ground those cold welds out so we wouldn't have a bunch of that in there this time around. And we're starting off with a bar that's just a little over 3 pounds in weight, and of course I cut it and folded it and didn't have the camera on. And you can see we got our fold off just a little bit, so we're going to lose a little material at the end on that handle end, but we'll get better at this. We'll remember how to do it. Been off for a month, you know. Anyway, we'll weld this thing up about 3 times under the power hammer, and then we went to the press with it. And I've got a kiss block behind it there, and we're taking this thing down to about 42 millimeters, or about 1 5/8 inches, a little over that, 11/16. And we're going to round off the corners. We want those corners knocked down. This will add to the pattern a little bit, but we're going to get it into the vise and we're going to twist this thing. And you got to remember we're dealing with a bar here that's just about 1 5/8 inches across. So this took a little bit. It was get about a turn on it, get it back into the fire, get it out, get another turn on it, back into the fire kind of thing. Heat, twist, repeat kind of a thing. There we go. Now we've got her all twisted up, back under Floyd. Now we're going to start squaring this thing up. Now I didn't round it off as quite as good as I should have, and what that's going to do, you can see those diagonal lines from the twist. Those are going to be little shunts in there. They're going to be something I'm going to have to deal with. I can't just leave them in there. It really wouldn't hurt anything. The way this bar is twisted together, it's pretty much one solid chunk now. And Daniel can beat on it any way he wants, and it should not delaminate. But we squeeze those out as best we could, and we upset it with Floyd, and now we're going to bring it down to about 42 millimeters again, and this will help get rid of some of those lines. And then of course we're going to have to grind some of them out as well. That'll give me a couple of millimeters to grind with, or into. And Scrappy's going to square this guy up. And once we take a hard stone to this thing, you can see those lines in there and on the corners. And right now, we've got a few millimeters all the way around that we can grind through. And we're going to have some lumps and bumps. So we'll heat it back up, and we'll get it back under the press and back under the power hammer to give ourselves a fairly square block. Our kiss block there. Yeah, you can see a few irregularities in there. The Scrappy should be able to take care of most of those. And then, like I said, we're going to grind this one more time, and we'll end up grinding out any imperfections in the surface that I see anywhere. I want to give Daniel the best chance he can to use this thing as a billet for a hammer. Now we're going to straighten up the ends a little bit. I don't want to grind the ends off too much, simply because I want to save as much material in there as I can. We're already down to 100 millimeters long, or 4 inches, and I'm going to have to grind off a little bit. So we're going to be just a hair below that 4-inch mark where Daniel likes it. Alright, to the belt grinder. And I didn't show it, but I dropped it into some ferric chloride real quick, just for a couple of minutes, and you can see that twisted pattern in there, and then the grinding sort of enhances it. And every side's a little bit different. Those ends look pretty cool. I like that. And out of that 3-pound bar, this ended up being a 2.6 pound bar. Alright guys, I think that's just about gonna do it. Let's wrap this thing up. That was fun, and so we'll get this thing over to Daniel, and I think you guys, I just showed this to you a second ago, but you can see there's a little irregularity right across there. The twists, when they come across, you can get little lines that go down into the material, and I wanted to make sure all those were gone, so I ground all of those out. And it's not exactly perfectly square, but Daniel's got Kitty, and he can heat it up and just beat the dog hoo out of it, and it'll get square for him. So anyway, there you go. All right guys, enough about that. So if you like what you saw, why don't you hit the little like button for me? That's a good thing. I'm trying to get back on this horse, and it's going to be good, but it's going to take a bit. So anyway, you might help me out by doing that. If you haven't subscribed, why don't you click the subscribe button, and there's a little bell, notification bell right next to it. Click on that. It'll let you know every time I put out a new video. We got a couple of things coming up. I need to make a sheath for the trade knife that we're going to trade for some more 15N20, which we're almost out of. And we are out of 1075. So, Daniel, if you see this, this is 15N20 and 1075. So you'll know how to quench it next time. Sorry I didn't give you that before. But anyway, And I hope you're having better luck with the other billet that I sent you. That's about it, guys. I'll let you go. I'll put a link into a couple of videos there and there. And if you want to subscribe, it should be right about there. All right, guys. Thanks. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.